Hey, welcome back to another video. It's taken a hot minute, but we're finally talking about issue 2 of the Zero-One comic. Self-loathing is a real bitch, but we're here now, so let's just kind of get right into it. I was overall pretty positive on the first issue. I had my complaints, but I still stand by generally that it was good, enjoyable, if flawed. The second issue, though, I'm not gonna lie to you folks, this one's pretty rough. So just right off the bat, really I feel like not much happens in this issue. We start where we left off with Aruto about to get destroyed by Ragnarok, and I feel like we pretty much end in the same place, just in a different like actual physical location. But like the end of the issue is this big explosion caused by Ragnarok where Aruto and Izu are. Kind of in the same situation as the last issue left off, although less about to be destroyed and more in the middle of an explosion. The only real new information we learn in any capacity is during this literal one-page cutaway to Hirobi that basically just confirms that Ragnarok is not related to Metsubo Jinrai. And, like, that's the whole purpose of this. It's this one page. There doesn't really appear to be any other reason for it to exist. Well, I guess there is one other reason. It's to show us that Ragnarok's cluster cells can send off Wi-Fi signals?
This doesn't make any sense.
Because I guess that's the thing that cluster cells can do. Granted, the show didn't really explain the limits or full capabilities of cluster cells, but this just kind of feels like an ass pull, and it's not the only kind of random ass pull power we get for Ragnarok. I was already kinda iffy on it last issue when he very easily hacked into Zeya to control progress key distribution, and in this issue we get a not dissimilar thing where he hacks into the central programming core for Humagears and manages to take over a few of them and turn them into Magias. Now, granted, Metsubo Jinrai could do this, but they could only do one at a time and needed to physically interact with that Humagear and give them a Zetsume Rise key to turn them into a Magia and reprogram them that way. Ragnarok is literally hacking into the central core that programs all of them like it's no big thing. And we're really pushing Ragnarok into this weird, like, uber god mode villain kind of thing. And it's a little ridiculous just already. We're only in the second issue, and I'm already Ragnarok already seems just way too overly powerful. This whole bit of him hacking into Hiden is generally pretty weird. Aruto and Izu are training in what is basically the Danger Room from X-Men. They explain that it's a holographic simulation that is used to train Humagears. This was not mentioned in the show, not as far as I could recall. And I guess it's not too far-fetched to imagine that something like that could exist, but it just seems to me that over the course of the show maybe it would have been mentioned, but that's really a nitpick, honestly. It's not that big a deal. But through hacking into Hiden, Ragnarok has, like, controlled the hard light projections in the room, and the cluster cells are managing to project a hard light version of Ragnarok, so he can still interact with them and hurt them, but it's not actually him. But it turns out the electromagnetic forces or whatever that they explain, it ends up interfering with the hard light holograms, but the interference is coming from the projectors, so the projector interferes with the projections? I don't understand why this even needed to be a thing. Like, they needed a way to incapacitate Ragnarok for a second so Aruto and Izu could get away, but I feel like you could do a better job than whatever this absolute nonsense is about. I mean, we don't really learn anything more about Ragnarok's motivations or what he's doing and why. We kind of got a little bit of that in the first issue, and I thought that was intriguing and like a neat idea as to why, like finding out why Ragnarok wants to take out all the Kamen Riders. But we don't really get any more of that this issue, and given that this is only a 4-issue mini, we're running out of time. We only have 2 more issues. But Ragnarok is not the only one who kind of gets dumb stuff this issue. We get more evidence that I think maybe Brandon Easton didn't have a great grasp on the characters' personalities, or possibly didn't really watch the show and more was just going off of notes given to him to write the comic by. When way early in the issue, after Fua and Yaiba save Aruto from Ragnarok, Fua tells him that he lacks discipline and needs to train his mind. Isamu Fua is the one who says this. The guy who tears open progress keys and was literally too angry to die thinks that Aruto needs to be more mentally disciplined.
You don't know what you're talking about, do you?
That ended up getting a lot of attention on Twitter when the preview pages came out because it was rightly very stupid. There's still not really enough of Yaiba to determine whether or not they've got a handle on her personality. Much like how the show ended up doing, or I guess at least the movies, the comic is very much giving her the shaft. Thanks to saving Aruto, though, we do at least get to see Yaiba and Fua transform, and it's pretty neat. We get this really cool finisher. If I can give this issue credit for one thing, there is this really neat flashback scene to Aruto and his dad, where he basically learns not to immediately rush judgment on somebody when they may have just been making a mistake. And it's a decent message, although it doesn't really seem to serve much purpose in terms of the narrative other than Aruto realizing that problems can be solved with a conversation rather than a fight. And if we're seriously working towards talking to Ragnarok to stop him rather than having him be defeated, that might get a little dumb and silly, but we'll see. The other really big, notably weird writing thing that I noticed comes near the end of the issue when Izu and Aruto are heading up to the roof so Izu can better connect to Zeya. You know, the satellite that Ragnarok hacked into last issue. Now, I might need to put an asterisk next to writing weirdness because there is the possibility that this is setting up Izu being hacked by Ragnarok, because we know that Ragnarok hacked into Zeya last issue to control Progress Key distribution, and, you know, it could be that that's the only thing that he managed to take control of, and there's a lot of Zeya that isn't under his control, or that he hasn't infiltrated, but it still seems really stupid of Izu, to me, to go, yes, this satellite that I know Ragnarok can and has hacked into, I'm going to try to connect to it. Surely that can't result in anything bad. Yeah, writing-wise, this issue is a lot shakier than the first one. There's that one good scene, that's the flashback between Naruto and his dad, and everything else is just kind of nonsense and stuff that's never been mentioned in the show, and Ragnarok being ultra-powerful to the point of complete ridiculousness, in my opinion. But the story is not the only thing that exists when it comes to a comic. There's also the art, and it's still generally okay, but it's kind of going down, if you ask me. There's some weird poses, especially with Valkyrie. There was one last issue too, during the one little panel where she's transformed, but it definitely still continues here. And there's also a panel that shows off her ass for some reason in an armored suit, so try to make sense of that. Plus, I've noticed here, the way that Valkyrie is standing looks very much like when artists draw characters in high heels, which, you know, Valkyrie isn't wearing. There's also other weird little art flubs. At the beginning of the issue, when Ragnarok escapes after Valkyrie and Vulcan show up, they say that there's this crater left behind, and they suggest that he escaped because of the hole in the ground. But the art doesn't really convey that hole existing. It just kind of looks like a decently sized divot in the ground covered in smoke. I don't know if I should call this an art flub or a lettering flub or whatever, but during this bit in Aruto's office after the fight, there's a thud that occurs, and I have no clue where it came from. There are books on the desk during the next panel, but those books were already there. Izu wasn't carrying them, she didn't set them down. Aruto, in fact, lifts his head up after the thud happens, so I'm not sure where that thud came from. Just a phantom little thud noise that occurred. Maybe Aruto hit his knee on the desk or something, I don't know. Message from editing. On closer inspection, maybe he's supposed to have knocked some of the books over because there are fewer on the second panel, but there's still nothing in the art that actually implies that, and I'm still saying this is just a random thud that wasn't supposed to be there. Also, during the fight with Ragnarok in the holodeck, as I'm going to call it, there's this one really weird bit where I had to look over it a couple of times and look at the next panel to truly understand that this is supposed to be Ragnarok firing his eye lasers and Aruto dodging them. I'm guessing the beam is also on the wrong layer here, since it's definitely supposed to be in between Aruto and Izu, but it looks like it's about to hit Izu, which it doesn't. So, yeah, that's kind of about it. This issue overall feels a lot sloppier than the first one, like the editor maybe wasn't paying as much attention, or there just wasn't a lot of passion for the project in general. I don't like to say that about creators. I don't like to accuse somebody of not caring, because if there's truly no care going around, then the thing doesn't exist. But it doesn't seem like there was a lot of concern for making sure this felt like it was part of the show. There's still no attempt to clear up the timeline. We don't see Jin during the during the cut to Hirobi, so it could be when he's dead. Could be they just decided they didn't want to show him there. So it doesn't feel like there was a lot of care or effort put into really making this feel like it belongs. There's those weird writing flubs. There's Ragnarok just being whatever, and being able to do whatever the hell the writer feels like in that particular moment. Character voices and their personalities feel weird. Aruto still says some things in ways that I don't think he would. Yeah, it's the future doesn't really look bright for this comic. I remain hopeful. Maybe the 3rd and 4th issues will turn it around. Maybe it'll end on a high note. But given the debacle that we had during this whole thing with Titan Publishing's Kamen Rider Kuga manga, I have definitely lost a little bit of faith in it, and you can definitely kind of see about the same amount of care that goes into that that happens here. Although there was at least, I think, more effort put here. So yeah, that's gonna do it. If you enjoyed, give the video a like, it really helps me out, and if you want to stick around for when I review issues 3 and 4, plus other stuff, I will probably be talking about King Oger when that starts up here pretty soon. I want to do a video on Kamen Rider Geats, so if you like Toku, stick around, I've got more of that coming. If you like video games, I have plenty of that around, and more coming. Plus, just all kinds of other content, so subscribe if you want to stay notified of that. Ring the bell too. But if you really, really want to know when I upload new stuff, I think Twitter is the best way to be notified of that, because I always tweet when I upload a new video, and my latest video is always my pinned tweet. You can go down in the description, follow me on Twitter to, probably best stay updated, and also just hear my stupid dumbass thoughts on all kinds of stuff. Also down in the description, I have a Patreon, so if you want to more directly support me by tossing a couple of bucks my way and get yourself some perks, you can totally do that. But if you are not in a position to do so, or you just plain don't want to, that is perfectly fine. Just watching the videos and sharing them is more than enough help. That'll do it for now, and I will see you guys next time.